गोविंद गोपीनाथ मरन मोहन जू की जाय नितिल प्रविष्टम विष्णुपाद अशतर शत शिशुमार भक्तिवेदांत नारायण गोसाई महाराज श्री गुरुदेव की जाय नितिल प्रविष्टम विष्णुपाद अशतर शत शिशुमार भक्तिवेदांत वामन गोसाई महाराज की जाय नितिल प्रविष्टम विष्णुपाद अशतर शत शिशुमार भक्तिवेदांत स्वामी महाराज श्री प्रभुपाद की जाय नितिल प्रविष्टम विष्णुपाद अशतर शत शिशुमार भक्ति प्रज्ञान केशव गोसाई महाराज की जाय नितिल प्रविष्टम विष्णुपाद अशतर शतस्मर भक्तिसिद्धांत सरस्वती गोसाई प्रभुपाद की जाय नितिल प्रविष्ट महाभागवत श्री गोक्षर बाबाजी महाराज की जाय नितिल प्रविष्ट श्री सच्चिदानंद भक्ति विनोद ठाकुर की जाय नितिल प्रविष्ट वैष्णव सार्वभौम श्री जगन्नाथ दास बाबाजी महाराज की जाय श्री रूपानुगौरिय गुरु वार्ग की जाय श्री रूप सनातन भट्ट रघुनाथ श्री जीव गोपाल पददास रघुनाथ शार गोसाई प्रभु की जाय श्री स्वरूप दामोदर राय रामानंदारी श्री गौर पार्षद वृंद की जाय नामाचार्य श्री हरिदास ठाकुर की जाय प्रेम से कहो श्री कृष्ण चैतन्य प्रभु नित्यानंद श्री अद्वैत गदाधर शिवासरी गौर भक्त वृंद की जाय श्री क्षेत्र मंडल गौर मंडल ब्रज मंडल मथुरा वृंदावन धाम की जाय सर्व अभिष्ट विदात गिरिराज महाराज की जाय श्री राधा कुंद श्याम कुंद की जाय श्री यमुना देवी गंगा देवी की जाय श्री तुलसी महारानी वृंद देवी की जाय श्री भक्ति देवी की जाय श्री पूर्णमासी योगमाय की जाय श्री गोपेश्वर महादेव की जाय श्री हरिनाम संकीर्तन की जाय अनंत कोटि वैष्णव वृंद की जाय समागत गौर भक्त वृंद की जाय श्री निताय गौर श्री ग्रंथराज श्रीमद् भागवतम की जय श्री निताय गौर प्रेमानंदे हरि हरि बोल। ओम ज्ञानतिमिरन्धस्य ज्ञानाञ्जनशलाकया चक्षुरुन्मिलितं येन तस्मै श्रीगुरुवे नमः। नमो ॐ विष्णुपदाय राधिकाय प्रियात्मने श्री श्रीमद्भक्तिवेदान्त नारायणेति नामिने। नमो ॐ विष्णुपदाय कृष्णपृष्ठाय भूतले श्रीमते भक्तिवेदान्त स्वामिनेति नामिने। वंशकल्पतरुभ्यश्च कृपा सिन्धुभ्य एव च पतितानां पावनेभ्यो वैष्णवेभ्यो नमो नमः। नमो महावदन्याय कृष्णप्रेमप्रदायते कृष्णाय कृष्णचैतन्य नाम्ने गौरत्विषे नमः। गुरवे गौरचन्द्राय राधिकाय तदालये कृष्णाय कृष्णभक्ताय तरभक्ताय नमो नमः। यं प्रव्रजन्तमनुपेतमपेतकृत्यं द्वैपायनो विरहकातर आजुहाव पुत्रेति तन्मयतया तरवोऽभिनेदुस्तं सर्वभूतहृदयं मुनिमानतोऽस्मि। नारायणं नमस्कृत्य नरं चैव नरोत्तमं देवीं सरस्वतीं व्यासं ततो जयमुदीरयेत्। शृण्वतं स्वकथा कृष्ण पुण्यश्रवणकीर्तन हृदन्तस्थो ह्यभद्राणि विधुनोति सुहृत्सतम्। नष्टप्रयेष्वभद्रेषु नित्यं भगवत सेवया भगवत्युत्तमश्लोके भक्तिर्भवति नैष्टिकी। तवैवास्मि न जीवामि त्वया विना इति विज्ञाय राधे त्वां नायमां चरणान्तिकम्। भक्त्या विहीना अपराधलक्षाय क्षिप्ताष्टकामादितरङ्गमध्ये कृपामयि त्वां शरणं प्रपन्ना वृन्दे नमस्ते चरणारविन्दं। भज श्रीकृष्ण चैतन्य प्रभु नित्यानन्द श्री अद्वैत गदाधर शिवासरि गौर भक्तवृन्द। हरे कृष्णा कृष्ण कृष्ण हरे 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 राम 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 हरे हरे। हरि बोल। शेषरी माता जी Rohit Radhakrishnan ji, Dandavat Pranams, Ganga Mata ji, Sudevi Didi, Champak Didi. Hare Krishna, everybody. All right, so I was looking for this book. What is it called? The Book of Bhagavat. But I couldn't find it. I downloaded it at some point. Anyhow. Oh, there it is. Found it. Okay, let's try reading the recap here. Let me find it. Go to page 346. Okay, let's try from here. Okay, so after the 24 gurus, Shukadeva Gosvāmī continued narrating the instructions of Kṛṣṇa to Uddhava. All forms of material enjoyment, even to the point of heavenly pleasures, are limited, temporary, and full of duality. In the futile pursuance of such experiences, one degrades himself more and more. The entangled spirit soul begins the journey back to purity after receiving transcendental knowledge from a spiritual master. By cultivating the mood and qualities of a true disciple, following transcendental instructions, and engaging one's propensities within the Varnashram system, one gains release from material entanglement. Like two birds in a tree, the Lord and the living entity reside within the body. The Lord is eternally liberated, sitting as an observer, while the conditioned soul perpetually tries to enjoy the fruits of the tree. When the soul is awakened to real knowledge, he becomes liberated, and even though residing within the body, becomes completely detached from the enjoying spirit, never considering himself the doer. The ultimate purpose of material detachment and Vedic study is to usher one into the ultimate purpose of material detachment and Vedic study is to usher one into a loving relationship with the Lord. Such connection with the Lord and the subsequent practice of devotional activities causes numerous saintly qualities to manifest in one's character. The most essential quality is surrender to Kṛṣṇa, since it triggers all subsequent qualities to automatically appear. In conclusion, Kṛṣṇa glorified the Vrindavan gopis, whose standard of love is beyond compare. Their deep attachment meant that every moment was spent in consciousness of Kṛṣṇa. More important than gaining volumes of knowledge, Kṛṣṇa explained, is to follow in their footsteps and develop a similar intensity of surrender and devotion. The topmost yoga system. Kṛṣṇa then stressed the necessity of developing the mode of goodness, sattva, in one's mindset, lifestyle, and habits, and then eventually transcending it through devotion. Fascinated, Uddhava asked the Lord to repeat the instructions he had previously imparted regarding this. He said, I'm confused, because first you're explaining Varnashram, then you're explaining, Nishkam Karma Yoga, and then Jnana Bhakti, and now you're explaining Bhakti. So then you're explaining, Karma Yoga, Jnana Yoga, and now you're explaining Bhakti. How do I not know in the future you're going to tell me something else again? How do I know this is your final instructions, Bhakti? So then when Brahma was questioned so Kṛṣṇa explains, once when Brahma was questioned by his sons, headed by Sanaka, about overcoming desires for sense gratification, the engineer of the universe felt incapable of answering and turned to the Lord for assistance. Appearing in the form of a swan, as Hamsa avatar, the Lord explains the nature of the mind. Not only is the mind drawn towards sense objects, but sense objects enter within the mind. Only by fixing the mind on the Lord can one escape its devious influence. When we see the material energy independently of Kṛṣṇa, it is likened to a dream state. For such persons, whether in wakefulness, sleep, or deep sleep, all three are illusory, since their grasp of reality is fundamentally flawed. Kṛṣṇa reassured Uddhava that even if one is unable to give up sense gratification, the power of devotional service will eventually elevate him to the perfectional stage. With a vigilant eye, one should guard against the temptations of sense gratification and learn to practice with the heart. When Uddhava desired clarification on which yoga system is most evolved, Kṛṣṇa described the various mystic perfections, 8 primary and 10 secondary, and the process to obtain them. The Lord then emphasized that the practice of devotional service, the practice of bhakti yoga, bears all these fruits, and most importantly, connects one to the Supreme Person in a very intimate way. The Lord becomes conquered by pure devotion. Just as Kṛṣṇa described his opulences to Arjuna in the Bhagavad-gīta, Kṛṣṇa explained to Uddhava how he is the essence of everything found in the world. And then comes Varnashram. All right, so let's... Hare Krishna, Gopikant Prabhu, and Madhavi Didi. I already saw you guys. All right, so now, beginning chapter 9, we read up to verse 11, I think, right? So, Lord Kṛṣṇa explains the yoga system to Sri Uddhava. Sri Uddhava said, My dear Kṛṣṇa, learned sages who explain the Vedic literature recommend a variety of processes for achieving the ultimate goal of life. Considering the variety of viewpoints, kindly explain to me whether all of them are equally important or if only one of them is supreme. My dear Lord, you have clearly explained the process of unalloyed devotional service by which one can free himself from all material association, thus enabling him to fix his mind on you without deviation. The Supreme Lord said, In the course of time, Vedic knowledge appeared to be lost at the time of annihilation. Then, when the universe was recreated, I again imparted Vedic knowledge to Brahma, because I am the religious principles personified. Lord Brahma instructed this Vedic knowledge to his eldest son Manu, who in turn instructed it to the 7 great sages headed by Bhrigu. From the forefathers headed by Bhrigu Muni and other sons of Brahma appeared many children and descendants who assumed different forms as demigods, demons, human beings, guhyakas, siddhas, gandharvas, vidyadharas, charanas, kindevas, kinnaras, nagas, kimpurushas, and so on. I love the explanation for kindeva, kinnara, and kimpurusha. What, is it demigod? Is it a demigod? Kinnara means, is it a man? And kimpurusha means, is it a human? And they are almost like human beings. But they're on different planets near, right? But they're not on this planet, but they very much resemble human beings, all 3 of those. All the kimpurushas are like monkeys, but they resemble human beings also. So, all of the many universal species, along with their respective leaders, appeared with different natures and desires generated from the 3 modes of material nature. Therefore, because of the different natures and desires of the living entities within the universe, different statements regarding religious principles have come into existence. Thus, due to the great variety of desires among human beings, various philosophies have come into existence. These philosophies have been handed down through tradition, custom, and disciplic succession. There are other teachers who present atheistic philosophies. O best among men, the intelligence of human beings is bewildered by my illusory energy, and thus, according to their inclinations, they propagate the various means for attaining what they feel to be the ultimate good. Some say that happiness is obtained as a result of performing pious activities. Others say that fame, sense gratification, speaking the truth, control of the senses, peacefulness, fulfilling one's self-interest, political influence, wealth, detachment, performance of sacrifice and austerities, giving and charity, the observance of vows, or the performance of one's occupational duties are the causes of happiness. Did we read this verse or did we just read up to this verse? Anyways, I'm just to be safe, I'm gonna read it from this verse. Adyanta, so starting from text 11. Adyanta vanta evaisham loka karma vinirmita dukho darkastamo nishtha kshudra manda sucharpita. These people obtain the temporary results of their work. Indeed, the meager and miserable situations they achieve simply award them unhappiness because they are based on ignorance. Even while enjoying the fruits of their labor, such persons are filled with lamentation. Sārārtha-darśinī commentary by Śrīla Viśvanātha Cakravartī Ṭhākura. Although materialistic people consider the fruits of their karma to be desirable, their lives are based on illusion, and thus they always meet with frustration. Gauḍīya Bhāṣya commentary by Śrīla Bhaktisiddhānta Sarasvatī Gosvāmī Prabhupāda. Those who simply work hard to possess the temporary things of this world, considering them to be all in all, are not actually intelligent, because such endeavors keep one in constant anxiety. Material nature is infinitely mutable, so that no position in this world is permanent. Mayarpitatmana sabhya nirapekshasya sarvata mayatmana sukam yattat kutasyar vishayatmanam. O saintly Uddhava, my all blissful form manifests in the heart of one who has freed himself from all desires for sense gratification and who is fully surrendered unto me. The happiness he enjoys in my association cannot be compared to the happiness one experiences by gratification of the senses. Sārārtha-darśinī. Devotional service to the Lord is the actual purport of the Vedas. The Supreme Lord said, "My devotees take great pleasure in relishing my transcendental forms and qualities." The jnanis who make great endeavors to control their mind are not purified, and so they are unable to attain my lotus feet. This is confirmed by Narad Muni. Kim va yogena sankhena nyasasadvaya yorapi kim va shreyobhiranyaischa na yatratma prado hari. Transcendental practices that do not ultimately help one realize the Supreme Personality of Godhead are useless, be they mystic yoga practices, the analytical study of matter, severe austerity, the acceptance of sannyas, or the study of Vedic literature. All these may be very important aspects of spiritual advancement, but unless one understands the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Hari, all these processes are useless. That's from Srimad Bhagavatam 4:31-12. Gauḍīya Bhāṣya. Those who have realized that this material world is a place of temporary enjoyment and have thus employed all their senses in the service of the Supreme Lord remain situated on the platform of eternal happiness. Since material pleasure cannot entice them, they always remain devoted to the Lord's service. Akinchanasya dantasya shantasya samachetasa maya santushta manasa sarva sukha maya disha. One who does not desire anything of this world and who is peaceful, self-controlled, always equal to everyone, and self-satisfied finds only happiness wherever he goes. Sārārtha-darśinī. A devotee who is always meditating upon Lord Kṛṣṇa experiences transcendental sound, touch, form, flavor, and aroma by means of transcendental senses. This is due to the causeless mercy of Lord Kṛṣṇa, upon whom one's mind and senses are completely engaged. Such a person finds only happiness wherever he goes. When a very wealthy man travels all over the world, Wherever he may stay, he will enjoy the same luxurious standard of comfort. Similarly, one who is advanced in Krishna consciousness constantly experiences transcendental happiness because Lord Krishna is all-pervading. The word Kṛṣṇa indicates the so-called enjoyable things of this world. One who is a Kṛṣṇa has correctly understood that material sense gratification is simply the glare of illusion, and therefore, such a person is dantasya, or self-controlled, shantasya, or peaceful, and maya santushta manasa, are completely satisfied with his transcendental experience of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Gauḍīya Bhāṣya. Those who are capable of controlling their senses, who are not bewildered by material desires, who do not consider anyone as inferior to them, who are always satisfied in whichever condition they are put into by the Supreme Lord, and who have no inclination to possess anything of this material world, can experience happiness everywhere. In this regard, one should carefully consider this verse from the Sri Chaitanya Chandramrita 5 by Prabodhananda Sarasvatī. Kaivalyam narakayate tridashapur akashapushpayate durdantendriya kala sarpa patali Protkata dangstrayate Vishvam purna sukayate vidimahendradishchakitayate Yat karunya kataksha vaibhavavatam Tam gorame vastumam. For those who have attained the merciful sidelong glance of Lord Chaitanya, impersonal liberation becomes as palatable as going to hell. The heavenly cities of the demigods become as enticing as flowers imagined to be floating in the sky. The poisonous fangs of the untamable black snakes of the senses are broken. The whole world becomes full of joy, and Brahma, Indra, and all the other great demigods become as insignificant as tiny insects. Let us glorify that golden-complexioned Lord Chaitanya. Oh, I just read this verse. This is in, because I'm reading Srila Bhakti Rakshak Srila Gosvāmī Maharaj's Prapana Jivanamrita, and this is one of the verses that he quotes in it, this verse 14 here. Let me just check the comments. Make sure everything's running okay. Yep. Okay. Na paramishtam na mahendra dishnyam na sarvabhaumam na rasadipatyam na yoga siddhir apunarbhavam va mayar patatme chatimar vinanyat. A pure devotee whose life is dedicated to me has no desire for even the position of Brahma or Indra, and so what to speak of becoming a lord of this world or of the lower planets? He is not interested in achieving the perfections of mystic yoga, nor even liberation from the cycle of birth and death, because his life is simply dedicated to me. Sārārtha-darśinī. The Supreme Lord said, "One who surrendered to me does not want the position of Brahma, nor the happiness of merging into the existence of Brahman. As one surrenders unto me, I reward him accordingly." From this statement of mine, one can understand how my thoughts remain absorbed in my devotees. A devotee who desires nothing other than me lives in my association and thus relishes transcendental mellows. Gauḍīya Bhāṣya. The pure devotee of the Lord has no desire other than to render devotional service. He does not cherish anything else, not even the position of Brahma or Indra, the domain of the whole world, sovereignty over the lower planets, material opulence, the 8 types of mystic perfections, or freedom from the cycle of birth and death. Na tata me priyatama atmayonir na shankara Na cha shankarshano nashir naivatama cha yata bhavan. This is also a very famous verse. And Srila Sridhar Goswami Maharaj also quoted this verse in Prapanam Jivanamrita. My dear Uddhav, neither Lord Brahma, Lord Shiva, Lord Sankarshan, the goddess of fortune, nor even my own self is as dear to me as you are. This is also a great verse to memorize. Na tata me priyatama atma yonir na shankara na cha shankarshano na shir naivatma cha yata bhavan. Okay, Sārārtha-darśinī. If someone were to ask the Lord, how dear is your devotee to you? The reply is given in this verse. The Lord says, Brahma is my son, Shankar is my expansion and my friend, Sankarshan is my brother, and Lakshmi Devi is my wife. And yet, none of them, not even my own self, is as dear to me as you are. My dear Uddhav, you are my devotee, and so you are most dear to me. This is also confirmed by Sridhar Swami. Although personalities like Brahma are also of the Lord's devotees, they are placed in responsible positions and are thus not exactly like the fully surrendered devotees. The Lord gives preference to a helpless devotee who depends completely on his mercy. The only way to obtain the Lord's mercy is through his causeless love, and the Lord is most lovingly inclined toward those devotees who are most dependent on him, just as ordinary mothers and fathers worry more about their helpless children than about those who are self-sufficient. Wow, it's so beautiful, huh? Because personalities like Brahma have a sense of their unique identity and position, they had not been addressed here as devotees. This is not the case with personalities like Nanda and Yashoda. Although they were parents of the Supreme Lord, they acted as his great devotees, and thus were very dear to him. In his pastimes, we invariably see that the Lord is fully controlled by his devotees. This is also confirmed in the Srimad Bhagavatam 10.9.20. Nemam virinchuna bhavo nashir apyanga sangshaya prasadam le bhire gopi yat tat prapya vimukti dat. The Supreme Lord, who can award liberation to anyone, showed more mercy toward the gopis than to Lord Brahma, Lord Shiva, or even the goddess of fortune, who is his own wife and is associated with his body. It may appear from this verse that among all the devotees, Uddhav is the best. But the gopis are even superior to Uddhav. The dust from the lotus feet of the gopis is even superior to the gopis themselves. And so that is what Sri Uddhav had hoped to receive. This is the Vaishnava conclusion. Gauḍīya Bhāṣya. Pure devotees of the Supreme Personality of Godhead are most dear to him, even more than personalities like Brahma, Shiva, Sankarshan, and Lakshmi. One second, I have to take my Ayurvedic medicine now. So take it half an hour after eating. Okay, sorry about that. Nirapeksham munim shantam nirvairam samadarshanam anuvrajamyaham nityam puyeyetangrirenubhi. Thinking that I will purify the entire universe with the dust from their lotus feet, I always follow in the footsteps of my devotees, who are free from material desires, wrapped in thought of my pastimes, peaceful, non-envious, and equal to all living entities. Sārārtha-darśinī. Lord Krishna is the all-powerful creator of the universe, beyond the dualities of material existence, and thus, for him, there is no conception of purity or impurity. Still, it has been seen that sometimes the Lord desires to take the dust of the lotus feet of his pure devotees upon his head. It is a statement of the scriptures that without receiving the dust of the lotus feet of the pure devotees, one cannot attain the perfection of liberation from material existence. Lord Krishna considered, I have made it the rule that one can experience transcendental happiness only as a result of advancement in devotional service, which is achieved by receiving the dust of the lotus feet of my devotees. Because I also desire to experience transcendental ecstasy, I accept the dust of my devotees' lotus feet. This is the purport of this verse. That's such an amazing statement, though. The Lord says, because I also desire to experience transcendental ecstasy, I accept the dust of my devotees' lotus feet. Okay, let's read Gauḍīya Bhāṣya. The Supreme Personality of Godhead sends his devotees into this world of material enjoyment for the benefit of the fallen conditioned souls. By observing the external behavior of the devotees, it is seen that they are detached, introspective, peaceful, friendly, and equipoised. The devotees of the Lord never engage in idle talks. They are the friends of all living entities, and they are equal to everyone. However, non-devotees cannot understand the plans and activities of the pure devotees. Niskinchana mayanurakta chetasa shanta mahanto kila jiva vatsala kamair analabda diyo jushantite yanairapeksham na vidhu sukham mama. Those with no material possessions, who are peaceful, free from pride, affectionate to all living entities, and who have no desire for personal gratification, and who serve me with undivided attention, enjoy in me a happiness that cannot be known by those lacking such detachment from the material world. Sārārtha-darśinī. The happiness which is derived by realizing the transcendental qualities of the Lord while performing devotional service is being described here. The happiness derived by realizing the transcendental qualities of the Lord while performing devotional happiness. This is what's being described. Some experts say that jnanis who have no material assets can also attain this platform of transcendental ecstasy. That is why the Lord has made this statement, just to distinguish the devotees from such jnanis. Pure devotees always desire to give Krishna-conscious happiness to others, and therefore they are called mahanta, or great souls. In the course of a devotee's service, many opportunities for sense gratification may arise, but a pure devotee is not tempted, and so he does not fall down from his exalted transcendental position. Gauḍīya Bhāṣya. Sense enjoyers are always bewildered by unlimited desires for personal aggrandizement, and so they are unable to comprehend the sublime position of the pure devotees. The devotees of the Lord are free from material desires, and so they are peaceful. They don't strive for material acquisitions, and they are the best well-wishers of people in general. Because the devotees are merged in the ocean of transcendental happiness derived by engagement in pure devotional service, they can never be diverted by mundane temptations. Because they are situated on the platform of spiritual bliss, they are detached from the bodily conception of life, and thus, even a learned materialist cannot understand their sublime position. Padyamano pimar bhakto Veshayar ajitendriya praya pragalbhaya bhaktya Veshayar nabhibhuyate. My dear Uddhav, If my devotee is not fully able to control his senses, he may sometimes be attracted to material enjoyment. But because of his engagement in devotional service, he will not be diverted by sense gratification. Okay. Let's see. Let me just reread this because this seems like an important verse. If my devotee is not able to fully control his senses, he may sometimes be attracted to material enjoyment. But because of his engagement in devotional service, he will not be diverted by sense gratification. Okay, so it's like a temporary thing. He may, like out of weakness, fall back on one of his previous material tendencies, but his engagement in devotional service will not make him fully divert toward that. He'll always come back. That's how I understood that. Let's see the commentary. Sārārtha-darśinī. The Lord said, "What to speak of those devotees who have attained the platform of rati? Even neophyte devotees are assured of success." A neophyte devotee may sometimes be attracted to material enjoyment, but because of the strength of his sincere devotional service, he will not fall down from his exalted position. If a jnani commits sinful activities, he immediately falls from his elevated position. A devotee, however, even though immature, never falls from the path of devotional service. Even if he displays occasional weakness, he is still considered a devotee if devotion to Lord Kṛṣṇa is very strong. This is confirmed by the Lord in the Bhagavad-gīta 9:30. Api chet suduracharo bhajate mam ananya bhak sadureva samantavya samyak vyavasito hisa. Even if one commits the most abominable action, if he is engaged in devotional service, he is to be considered saintly because he is properly situated in his determination. In this regard, two examples can be given. Sometimes a heroic warrior is struck by the enemy's powerful weapon, but while simply tolerating the pain, he goes on to achieve victory. In the same way, one may be afflicted by a serious disease, but can be cured by taking the prescribed medicine. Gauḍīya Bhāṣya. For the benefit of neophyte devotees who cannot fully control their senses, the Supreme Lord said, "Even though a devotee could not control his senses and thus remains attached to sense gratification, if he wants to advance in devotional service to me and thus enthusiastically engages in sadhana bhakti, so that he may gradually come to the platform of bhav bhakti, then he will never meet with defeat." This is so encouraging, huh? I really like this verse and these commentaries. Let me check the comments. Oh, everything looks good. Yatagni su sumridharchi karote dangsi bhasmasat tata marvishaya bhakti udavai nangsi Kṛṣṇasha. Dandavat pranams Indira Mataji. I forgot to mention you at the beginning. Okay. O Uddhav, just as a blazing fire burns firewood to ashes, devotional service executed for my pleasure completely destroys the sinful reactions of my devotees. Sārārtha-darśinī. If a devotee fails to control his senses and accidentally engages in sinful activities, the Lord will certainly burn to ashes all his sinful reactions, just as a blazing fire reduces wood to a pile of ashes. Gauḍīya Bhāṣya. As long as we are intoxicated by material enjoyment, our prosperity for serving the Supreme Lord is like smoldering ashes. But the moment our service attitude becomes prominent, our material inclinations are destroyed, just as a blazing fire burns wood to ashes. Lord Kṛṣṇa is glorious, and one who takes exclusive shelter of the Lord receives the unique benefits of devotional service to the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Na sadhayati mam yogo, na sankyam dharma uddhava, na svadhyayastapastyago, yatha bhaktir mamurjita. My dear Uddhav, neither through Ashtanga Yoga, nor through impersonal monism or an analytical study of the absolute truth, nor through a study of the Vedas, nor through austerities, charity, or acceptance of sannyas, can one satisfy me as much as by developing unalloyed devotional service unto me. I think this is also a famous verse as well. Anyways, it's important. Sārārtha-darśinī. Devotional service is the only means by which one can satisfy the Supreme Lord. One may make Kṛṣṇa the goal of mystic yoga, Sankhya, philosophy, and so on, yet such activities do not please the Lord as much as direct loving service, which one practices by hearing and chanting about the Lord and executing his mission. A devotee should simply depend on Kṛṣṇa and should not unnecessarily complicate his loving service with tendencies toward fruit of work or mental speculation. Gauḍīya Bhāṣya. Many people think that they can achieve great benefit by studying the Vedas, by performing austerities, by renouncing material enjoyment, by cultivating Sankhya philosophy, and by study of Vedanta. However, all of these practices are not required for engagement in the service of the Supreme Lord. Only unalloyed devotional service is capable of satisfying the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Oh, this is a very famous verse. Bhaktyaham ekaya grahya shraddhayatma priya satam bhakti punati mannishta shvapakan api sambhavat. Being very dear to the devotees and sadhus, I am attained through unflinching faith and devotional service. This bhakti yoga system, which gradually increases attachment for me, purifies even a human being born among dog eaters. That is to say, everyone can be elevated to the spiritual platform by the process of bhakti yoga. This is a very, very important verse. So it doesn't matter where somebody took birth, what condition they are in, what their samskars, all these things are completely unimportant. Because through bhakti yoga, one can attain any person, no matter where they are, no matter what their condition is. They can attain the spiritual platform by bhakti yoga. Sārārtha-darśinī. So that no one will have any doubt about the best process for attaining the goal of life, the Supreme Lord says, I am only obtained by devotional service and not by any other processes such as yoga, etc. Although the goal of Brahman, attained by means of Gyan, is found in the Shastras, it is to be understood that such cultivation of knowledge must be mixed with devotional service. Pious activities such as the cultivation of knowledge cannot help one achieve the Supreme Lord. They can only destroy one's sinful reactions. Devotional service destroys sinful reactions in a way that other processes, such as Gyan, cannot. In this regard, Sridhar Swami has concluded that devotional service to the Supreme Lord automatically destroys the fault of taking birth in a family of dog-eaters and completely purifies one. Gauḍīya Bhāṣya. The propensity for material enjoyment among those who are very fond of eating dogs is so strong that they have very little faith in the service of the Supreme Lord. Devotees of the Lord are not interested in eating abominable food. They give up all varieties of sense gratification and attract the attention of the Supreme Lord by remaining completely dependent upon him. The devotees love the Supreme Lord as their most dear friend, and as such, the Lord takes pleasure in their devotional activities. Simply by developing the propensity for rendering devotional service to the Lord, the people of this world who are now engaged in acts of sense gratification can become liberated from the material conception of life. Dharma satya dayopeto vidyava tapasanvita mar bhaktya petam atmanam na samyak prapunatihi. Truthfulness, compassion, religious principles, austerity, and knowledge cannot completely purify a person who is bereft of devotional service to me. Wow, another important verse. All these things, truthfulness, compassion, religious principles, austerity, knowledge, all these things cannot purify a person who doesn't have bhakti, cannot completely purify anybody. Sārārtha-darśinī. Even though following religious principles and cultivating knowledge have the power of destroying one's sinful reactions, this is to be understood as true when such activities are combined with devotional service to the Lord. Without devotional service, these activities have very little strength. The word vidya in this verse refers to the cultivation of knowledge. Gauḍīya Bhāṣya. Truthfulness, trying to remove others' distress, giving in charity, performing austerities, and practicing renunciation cannot thoroughly purify one's existence. They purify one to some extent, but the seed of material desires remains, so that after some time, one will again return to a life of sense gratification. However, because service to the Supreme Lord is the ultimate religious principle, it is also the topmost purifying agent. Katam vina rama harsham dravata chetasa vina vinananda shrukalaya shuddhir bhaktya vinashaya. Without the manifestation of ecstatic symptoms of devotional service, such as the hairs standing on end, how can the heart melt? If the heart does not melt, how can tears of love flow from the eyes? Without the melting of the heart and without tears flowing from the eyes, how can one render loving devotional service? Without devotional service, how can the consciousness be purified? Sārārtha-darśinī. Devotional service, which produces symptoms of ecstasy, such as the standing of the hair of the body on end, is the only means to completely purify the heart. Only devotional service is capable of melting the heart, and not any other sadhan. How can the heart become purified without manifesting symptoms such as tears in the eyes, the hairs standing on end, and so on? Sri Krishna Chaitanya, who had incarnated to deliver the people of Kali Yuga, said, "Even after studying the science of the absolute truth as described in the Upanishads, if one does not hear the glories of Lord Hari, then the transformations of love of God, indicating the melting of the heart, such as the shedding of tears, will not manifest." Even as one continues to engage in the activities of Krishna consciousness, if his heart does not become purified, the tinge of impurity that does not allow him to directly see the Lord will remain. This impurity is burnt to ashes only by pure devotional service, and not by the small fire of the cultivation of knowledge. Gauḍīya Bhāṣya. One's heart cannot be purified while one is constantly engaged in material enjoyment. Our desires can be purified only by dovetailing them in the service of the Supreme Lord. If we don't engage ourselves in the Lord's service, then the spirit of material enjoyment will keep us forever bound to the fruits of our actions. When the heart melts, one sheds tears of love, and the hair of the body stands on end. Until that time, material enjoyment, which is always mixed with frustration, will continue to misguide us. Vāg gadadravate yasya Chitam Vāgad-gadadravyate yasya chitam rudatyabhikshnam hasati kvachitcha vilajja udgayati nrityate cha Mar bhakti yukto bhavanam punati. A devotee who is fixed in loving service to me, whose voice is sometimes choked up, whose heart melts, who sometimes weeps and sometimes laughs, and sometimes chants and dances without concern for others, purifies the three worlds. Sārārtha-darśinī. One who attains the platform of love of God can deliver the fallen conditioned souls. This is not at all surprising. Sometimes his voice becomes choked up so that he cannot speak coherently, and because his heart melts, he sometimes cries out in anxiety. The word sometimes should be applied to each of the ecstatic symptoms, but the heart remains melted in all situations. Gauḍīya Bhāṣya. Persons who are eternally engaged in the Lord's service sometimes sing the Lord's holy name loudly and dance in ecstasy. Let me reread that. Persons who are eternally engaged in the Lord's service sometimes sing the Lord's holy name loudly and dance in ecstasy. Sometimes display the softness of their heart by speaking in a voice that is choked up. Sometimes laugh, and sometimes cry without caring for others. Only such devotees can purify the 14 worlds. Yatagnina hema malam jahati. God, how do you do that? Dmatam punasvam bhajate charupam atma chakarmanushayam vidhuya mar bhakti yogena bhajattato mam. I'm going to give that to my friend Chandra to try to say. Sorry, I have a Sanskrit class, and so that we. Okay, just as the gold, when smelted in fire, gives up its impurities and returns to its pure, brilliant state, the spirit soul, absorbed in the fire of bhakti yoga, is purified of all contamination caused by previous fruitive activities, and as a result, becomes situated in his constitutional position as my eternal servant. Sārārtha-darśinī. The Supreme Lord herein establishes the conclusion that only by devotional service can the heart be purified, and not by any other process. The example is given of gold. When gold is smelted in fire, all impurities are removed. This purification of gold cannot be obtained simply by washing it with soap and water. Similarly, a living entity can cleanse his heart of all contaminations by the fire of devotional service, and not by any superficial means. The result is that the devotee goes back home, back to Godhead, and there, the devotee worships Lord Kṛṣṇa in his original spiritual body, which is compared to the original pure form of smelted gold. Gauḍīya Bhāṣya. When gold is smelted in fire, all of the impurities of base metals are removed. Similarly, when the conditioned souls whose only engagements are those of sense gratification put themselves in the fire of devotional service, then their aspirations for material enjoyment are reduced to nil, so that they can easily traverse the path back home, back to Godhead. Yata yatatma parimrijyate so mat punya gata shravanabhidhanai tata pashyati pat vastu shukshmam chakshur yataivan janav samprayuktam. If a diseased eye is smeared with medicinal ointment, it can gradually recover its lost ability to see. Similarly, the more a living entity becomes purified by hearing and chanting the narrations of my auspicious glories, the more he can perceive my transcendental form. Sārārtha-darśinī. The Vedas can assure us that we can directly see the Supreme Lord and His transcendental abode if we fully surrender unto Him and agree to obey His instructions. The Lord and His name are non-different, and as soon as one sincerely hears or chants the holy names of the Lord, the wonderful effect will be felt. The example can be given that a person who has one eye is better off than one who is blind. A person who has both eyes is better situated than a person who has only one eye. And a person who is smeared with medicinal ointment may be able to see better than one who has not taken advantage of such treatment. Similarly, according to the intensity of one's determination to achieve success in devotional service, he will be purified accordingly. Gauḍīya Bhāṣya. Oops, it's 8:30. Okay, I'm going to end with this verse then. When one becomes too accustomed to a life of sense gratification, one loses sight of the ultimate goal of life, which is to regain the association of the Supreme Lord. By smearing medicinal ointment, diseased eyes may gradually revive their power to see. Similarly, by cultivating Kṛṣṇa consciousness, one can attain the eternal service of the Supreme Lord in transcendental love. Who's doing kirtan and tapana? Okay, so I'm just gonna, we'll end here, but I'm just reading, we read up to 27, okay, I'll make a note of that. But I'm just gonna read the translation for the next couple verses, so that we can. The mind of a person who meditates upon the objects of the senses becomes entangled in such objects. But if one constantly remembers me, then his mind becomes absorbed in me. One should give up all paths for material elevation, which are no better than the creations of a dream. One should rather absorb his mind in always thinking of me, for this will completely purify him of all material contamination. One who is aware of his eternal self should give up the association of women and those who are attached to women, and fearlessly sit down in a solitary place to carefully meditate upon me. Of all kinds of distress and bondage, none is greater than the suffering and bondage arising from intimate association with women and those attached to women. Sri Uddhava said, "My dear lotus-eyed Sri Kṛṣṇa, please describe to me how one desires liberation and should meditate upon you." Yeah, so describe to me how one who desires liberation should meditate upon you. Upon which form should he meditate, and what should be the nature of his meditation? So we will read all the rest of this chapter tomorrow. All right, so like I've been doing, I'm going to end now with Jayadvani, and then I'll sing Keshavashtakam for anybody who wants to stay. Hare Krishna Shasharmaji. Right. Jai Shishi Guru Gauranga Gandharvika Giridhari Shishi Radha Vinod Bihari Juki Jai. Shri Govinda Gopinath Madan Mohan Juki Jai. Nityal Pravishtam Vishnupa Rashata Rashata Shishmar Bhaktivedanta Narayan Gosvāmī Maharaj Śrīla Gurudev Ki Jai. Nityal Pravishtam Vishnupa Rashata Rashata Shishmar Śrīla Bhaktivedanta Vaman Gosvāmī Maharaj Ki Jai. Nityal Pravishtam Vishnupa Rashata Rashata Shishmar Śrīla Bhaktivedanta Swami Maharaj Śrīla Prabhupada Ki Jai. Nityal Pravishtam Vishnupa Rashata Rashata Shishmar Śrīla Bhaktisiddhānta Sarasvatī Gosvāmī Prabhupada Ki Jai. Nityal Pravishta Maha Bhagavat Śrīla Goraksharas Babaji Maharaj Ki Jai. Nityal Pravishta Śrīla Satchidananda Bhakti Vinod Ṭhākura Ki Jai. Nityal Pravishta Vaishnav Sarvabhauma Śrīla Jagannath Das Babaji Maharaj Ki Jai. Shri Rupa Nuvagoriya Guru Varga Ki Jai. Shri Rup Sanatan Bhatta Raghunath Shri Jeev Gopal Bhattadash Raghunath Shar Goswami Prabhu Ki Jai. Shri Sarup Damodar Rai Ramanandari Shri Gaur Parshad Vrinda Ki Jai. Namacharya Śrīla Haridas Ṭhākura Ki Jai. प्रेम से कहो श्री कृष्ण चैतन्य प्रभु नित्यानंद श्री अद्वैत गदाधर शिवासरी गौर भक्त वृंद की जाय। श्री क्षेत्र मंडल गौर मंडल ब्रज मंडल मथुर वृंदावन धाम की जाय। सर्व अविश्य बरात गिरिराज महाराज की जाय। श्री राधा कुंड श्याम कुंड की जाय। श्री यमुना देवी गंगा देवी, sorry, the singing's really distracting. श्री यमुना देवी गंगा देवी की जाय। श्री तुलसी महारानी वृंद देवी की जाय। श्री भक्ति देवी की जाय। श्री पूर्णमासी योग माया की जाय। श्री गोपेश्वर महादेव की जय। हरि नाम संकीर्तन की जय। श्री ग्रंथराज श्रीमद् भागवतम की जय। श्री उद्धव गीत की जय। Shri Harinam Sankirtan ki jai, Śrīla Viśvanātha Cakravartī Ṭhākura Sārārtha-darśinī vritti ki jai, Śrīla Bhaktisiddhānta Sarasvatī Gosvāmī Prabhupāda Gauḍīya Bhāṣya ki jai, Ananta Koti Vaishnava Vrinda ki jai, Samagata Gaur Bhakta Vrinda ki jai, Shinitai Gaur Premanande Hari Hari Bo. Okay, I need to shut my windows because this singing is really disturbing me. Okay, and now we'll sing Shri Keshavashtakam. I'm gonna go get my mridanga also. 1 second. I'll be right back. Okay, getting my mridanga. Sounds like an Oriya singer. He's singing Kṛṣṇa. Hare Kṛṣṇa, Hare Kṛṣṇa. Okay. Alright, let's begin. Shri Keshavashtakam by Śrīla Rupa Gosvāmī. Nava Priya Kamanjari Rachita Karna Pura Shriyam Vinitrataramalati Kalita Shekare Nojvalam Darojvasita Yutika Pratita Valguvai Kakshaka Vraje Vijayinam Bhaje Vipina Deshata Keshavam Vishangi Manikastani Pranata Shingi Pingekshane Mridanga Mukhi Dhumale Shabali Hangsi Vangshi Priye Iti Sasura-bhikula Taralama Vayantamuda Vraje Vijayinam Bhaje Vipina Deshata Keshavam Gana Pranaya Medhuran Madhura Narma Goshti Kala Vilasa Nilayan Milad Vivida Vesha Vidyotinam Sakina Kila Saraya Patishohasayantam Gira Vraje Vijayinam Bhaje Vipina Deshata Keshavam Shamambhukanika Vali Dharavili Dagandantaram Samudagiri Dhatuvir Likita Charupantram Puram Udancharali Mandali Duti Vidam Bivakralakam Vraje Vijayinam Bhaje Vipina Deshata Keshavam Nibadda Navatarnaka Vali Vilokanutkanthaya Ṭhākura Putanchalar Alugubir Bhuvan Pindatim Kalena Dhavala Khata Lagu Nirvartayantam Puro Vraje Vijayinam Bhaje Vipina Deshata Keshavam Padankatati Birvaram Virachayantam Advashriyam Chalat Taralanai Chiki Nichaya Dhuli Dhumras Rajam Marulla Hari Chanchali Krita Dukula Chudanchalam Vraje Vijayinam Bhaje Vipina Deshata Keshavam Vilasa murali kala dvani birula sanmanasa Kṛṣṇā kila ballavi pulakayantamantargrihe Muhur vidatatang hridi pramuditancha goshteshvare Braje vijayinam bhaje vipinadeshata keshavam Upetya pati sundari tati birabhirabhyarchitam Smitam kurakaram bitar natarapanga bhangi shatai Stanastavaka sancharan nayana chanchari kanchalam Braje vijayinam bhaje vipinadeshata keshavam Idam nikila ballavi kula mahotsavolasanam Kramena kilaya puman patati shushtupadyashtakam Tamojvala diyam sada nijapadaravinda-dvaye Haratim dadada chanchalam Sukayatar vishakasakam Braje vijayinam bhaje Vipinadeshata keshavam Braje vipinad Braje vipinam Sorry, okay Braje vijayinam bhaje Vipinadeshata keshavam Vraje vijayinam bhaje Vipinadeshata keshavam Vraje vijayinam bhaje Vipinadeshata keshavam Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Jaya Keshav-dev, Jaya Keshav-dev, Keshav-dev, Jaya Keshav-dev, Jaya Keshav-dev, 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 Jaya Keshav-dev. Hari Bol, Hari Bol, Hari Bol, Nitai Gaur, Hari Bol, Nitai Gaur, Hari Bol, Hari Bol, Hari Bol, Hari Bol. All right, Sudevi Didi, I'll read the translation this time. I'm not going to read it every day. I read it on the first day, but I can read it again today also. I'll do that right now. And then we'll end for today. All right, let's see. Wearing beautiful earrings. Wait, I'll share my screen so you can see also. Wearing beautiful earrings wrought from clusters of new Kadamba buds. Wait, let me reread that. Wearing beautiful earrings wrought from clusters of new Kadamba buds, a brilliant wreath of fully blossoming Malati jasmine crowning his head, and across his chest, a captivating garland strung from Utica jasmine that is blooming ever so slightly. He returns from the forest lands of Vraj like a victor marching home. That Keshav I worship. Pishangi, Manikastani, Pranatashringi, Pingikshane, Mridangamukhi, Dhumale, Shabali, Hangsi, Vangshi Priye. I worship Keshav as he returns to Vraj from the forest lands, moving to and fro, cheerfully calling out to his divine Surabhi cows. And here, the names of the cows are so interesting. Pishangi means reddish yellow limbs. Manikastani means jewel-like udders. Pranatashringi means bowed horns, stooping horns. Pinga Ikshani means yellow-eyed. Mridanga-mukhi is a name of a cow, mridanga-faced. Dhumale means smoky. Shabali means dappled. Hanksi means swan-like. Vangshi Priye, the flute lover. Okay. Tender in their bosom bond of friendship, they are all veritable reservoirs of tasteful cowherd boy humor, as well as experts in singing, dancing, arts, and sporting, mingling now in an array of splendid outfits on the paths into Vraj. I serve that Keshav who, with his words, makes these friends of his laugh with all of their hearts as they return from the forest pastures. Beads of perspiration gently lick his cheeks, which have been painted with charming designs of budding leaves using fragrant mineral colors. And this is from Baladev Vijayabhushan's commentary. It says, mineral colors of gold, red, white, and blue, collected from the hills of Giriraj Govardhan, while his restless curling locks of hair mock the lustrous swarm of bees. I worship that Keshav as he returns to Vraj from the forests. Eager to see their newborn calves, who are safely restrained back in the Goshta village of Vraj, many of the white Dhavala cows dash ahead, carving up the earth with the points of their hooves. I worship that Keshav who is quick to summon them back to the front of the herd with the soft melodious tones of his flute, as he proceeds back to Vraj from the forests. I worship that Keshav as he returns to Vraj from the forest, deftly beautifying the roads with countless footprints, distinct with auspicious markings of flag, thunderbolt, etc., while the restless cows run ahead, kicking up so much dust that it covers his garland of forest flowers, making it look a dark reddish gray. The gentle waves of the breeze ruffles the hem of his pitambar and the tips of his peacock feather crown. From a distance, the sweet low sound of the long murali flute he uses in his playful pastimes delights the hearts of all the ladies of Vraj, those of his mother's age, who are in their homes. And this low sound of the long murali flute causes the hairs on their limbs to stand on end. Krishna's return, like a festival, has everyone excited. Thus, again and again, increasing the bliss in the heart of the Queen of Vraj, his mother Yashoda, he returns from the forest of Vraj. I worship that Keshav. Rushing up to the path, the multitudes of beautiful girls, like so many goddesses of fortune, worship him with budding smiles and hundreds of dancing crooked sidelong glances, while his eyes, like honeybees, rove around the edges of their breasts, which are adorned with stunning blouses and appear to be like bouquets of blossoming flowers. I worship that Keshav as he returns to Vraj from the forest. This is a grand festival of delight for the hosts of cowherd girls. If a person following the proper process of bhajan reads and recites this 8-part poem profusely, then may the bosom boyfriend of Vishaka endow him with brilliant intelligence, grant him unwavering love, rati or bhav, for his lotus feet, and thereby delight him for all time. All right, so Hare Krishna, Yashoda Didi. All right, everybody. So thank you so much for joining, and I will see you all tomorrow. Jai Shri Radhe. Oh, wait, and one last thing. Look at the days coming up. So in 2 days will be Gadadhar Pandit's appearance day. In 5 days from now is Akshaya Tritiya. 9 days from now, Janu Saptami. 11 days is Janava Devi's and Sita Devi's appearance day and Madhu Pandit's disappearance day. Mohini Ekadashi is in 13 days. Nrsimha Chaturdashi is in 16 days. All right, Hari Bol, everybody.